Good to see everybody again here. Thanks for sticking around. I didn't scare you off in the first part, so glad you're back. But I just wanted to, since it's been a lot of years since we've been to your church here, I just thought I would just share just a little bit about how God called me into missions and just how the Lord led us to Rankin Inlet. Because a lot of people ask us, why in the world did you want to go there? Why? There's so many other places. And but the Lord worked in some really unique ways, some specific ways, and I hope to challenge and encourage you, and just so you can get to know us a little bit more. And there's my lovely family there. So my wife Becky on the far right, and then my son, my only son Wesley, the youngest, and then our daughter on the left is Elena. She's my second oldest. Haley in the yellow is the one I just dropped off at Bible College, and then Taryn is the littlest girl there, who's taller than her mom now already. So anyway, so that's our family. We're sent out of Calvary Baptist Church in New Philadelphia, Ohio, and we've been out of that church for all of our time as involved in missions, and so praise the Lord for that. So I was raised in a Christian family. Really praise the Lord that God placed me in a Christian family. My father was a pastor, and so we involved in ministry my whole life. I was a PK, involved in the pastor's home. So, whether that's good or that's bad, no, it was good for me. I was really glad that the Lord placed me where He did. I was saved around the age of 6. After there was a baptism at our church. We lived in Maryland at the time, in the U.S., and there was a baptism there, and I remember a young lady sharing her testimony and how she got saved, and so I knew I had heard the gospel. I had been through Sunday school, and I had heard lots of things and at that time, and then after the service, I went home, knelt by my bunk bed. I have a twin sister, and so she and I shared a bunk bed, and I knelt beside my bunk bed, trusted Christ as my Savior, was baptized a little while later, and was blessed as well growing up to be in Christian schools. My parents were able to send us to a Christian school, so that was a blessing. And I always had, at a young age, an interest in First Nations people, Native Americans, of course, as they would call it in the U.S., Inuit people, and just really was piqued by that. I loved the history of the different cultures and loved all the unique things that they did, and living out on the land and things like that. And so, and also had an interest in Canada. My dad is from Alberta, and so he was born and raised in Alberta. So I'm a dual citizen, and so I had always in the back of my mind that I wondered if the Lord would call me into ministry, if maybe I could go to Canada. And so it was just sort of like the wonderful place that I wanted to go, and so was able to grow up then. As I continued living in the Christian family there, the Lord called me into missions. I was at a Bible camp, and in June of 1990, the Lord called me into full-time missions. I didn't know where that was going to be. I didn't know what God wanted me to do, but at the camp there and the preaching and all that, the Lord just stirred my heart, and so I said yes, and the Lord, felt that was my calling into full-time ministry somewhere. Then I had the blessing in grade 11. We were living in Illinois at that time. I met a missionary to Alaska. And his children had gone to the school there, and they were preparing to go to Alaska for the first time. They had lived there, and then they were going back again as missionaries. And so I met this missionary. He was going to Arctic Alaska. His name was Warren Compton, and became good friends with his son. And his son and I just continued a friendship. And throughout that time, after high school, then I was able to take a trip up to Alaska. Just as a 2-week trip, 2 guys, we went camping and hunting and fishing, and his parents flew us up to their little Arctic village that is 3 miles above the Arctic Circle. And so that was my first time in the Arctic. Got to see, it would have been summer of 97, got to see the Arctic and was really impressed, and the Lord just continued to use that to develop a burden for me to go to the north. I didn't really know what or where exactly, but God used that missionary. Well, I had to go to Bible college somewhere, so I went down to Florida, went to Pensacola Christian College, and was able to be roommates then with that missionary's son. And so 4 years down at college there was roommates with him, and we just continued our friendship there. While I was at Pensacola, I met another Arctic missionary, Gary Forney. Gary Forney was the founder of our mission called Points North Baptist Mission. And so it's sort of a little bit confusing if you've known some of the history of that. It started out as Points North Baptist Mission. It's now changed in the States. It is called All Points Baptist Mission. But then here in Canada, we still call it Points North Baptist Mission. Actually, Brother Holland does the financial side of the mission for us as well. So I'm really disappointed I didn't get to see him. It's been years since I've seen him. He texted me. We communicate often. I appreciate Brother Holland and all his work to help our mission, help me as well. And so anyway, I met that missionary, Gary Forney, and God continued to pique my interest and help me to have that desire and inquire more about missions and the call to the north. And I then graduated, 2001, and that previous missionary I mentioned in Alaska invited me to go do an internship. And so I went as a single guy. I had not met anyone in college to marry, and I wasn't attached, and the Lord led me to go up to Arctic Alaska. So I went after graduation. I went in January because I wanted to try the winters out. And in that community, there are no roads, there's no vehicles. You fly in and you get off the plane, you walk off the plane, hop on a snowmobile, and drive. So the missionary picked me up on a snowmobile and took me to the place where I was going to be staying. So that's Alaska, Northwest Alaska, pretty remote area. So that was my first experience with below zero temperatures, and I loved it. Believe it or not, I loved it and really enjoyed it, and stayed there till May of 2002. Then was January to May of 2002, and during that time, though, I expressed interest to that missionary that I was feeling the Lord's leading toward Canada, somewhere in the northern part of Canada, and so that missionary, Brother Compton, knew another family, the Steve Donnelly family, which I think some of you might know. Steve Donnelly had been in the north for many years, he and his family, and so since I am a dual citizen, I was able just to go straight to an internship there. Brother Donnelly invited me to do another internship, and so I went over to Inuvik, Northwest Territories, and it was in August then. That was August of 2002, and that is where I met my wife. That's where I met Becky. And Brother Donnelly's daughter is Becky. And so the Lord allowed me to be unattached, coming out of a big Bible college, in order to go up to a tiny little village in the Arctic to meet my future wife. And I really praise the Lord for my wife. She's really helped me so much on the mission field. Growing up in the States, I was an outdoorsy, northern state type of person, but the culture and the climate, different things are very different. Even though where we are now is still Canada, the culture is very different, and the lifestyle and thinking and all that. And so Becky has really helped me so much as a missionary to be all that I am today, I guess we could say. And so anyway, then let's see, get my facts all straight here. August of 2002, we met, and then a year later, we were married up there in Inuvik in 2003. We went then down to Calvary Baptist in New Philadelphia and did another internship. And I really wanted as much training as I could in the ministry, and so the Lord allowed me to do that internship in Alaska, then in Inuvik, and then in New Philadelphia before we began ministry and the deputation. And so was there then with Pastor Snow there in Ohio for about a year before starting our deputation. And the Lord then began to, during that year in New Philadelphia, we were praying, where would God have us to go? What's the location of our ministry? Or what does God want us to do? And so we began to look at a map and pray over a map of the country here and see and look at areas, where are some needy places in the Arctic, and of course everywhere, you could throw a dart at the map and see, but God then began to work on our heart about going to the town of Rankin Inlet. It's a larger town. It's the second largest town in the territory, in Nunavut territory, and so there are several smaller towns nearby that the hope was and still is to be able to reach out to in the future. We haven't done a whole lot of that, but the Lord then confirmed for us to go to Rankin Inlet. So the Lord then gave, actually I'll read this verse here, Romans 15:20 through 21 says, "Yea, so have I strived to preach the gospel not where Christ was named, lest I should build upon another man's foundation. But as it is written, to whom he was not spoken of, they shall see, and they that have not heard shall understand." So that was our sort of our missions verse that the Lord led us to choose to really spoke to us regarding preaching the gospel where Christ was not named. Our mission work is a pioneer work. There's never been, as far as we know, a Bible preaching church in that community, in the community of Rankin Inlet. So we felt God's directing to pioneer that work, and so we started deputation in 2004, and about 3 years later we finished and then moved to Rankin Inlet on July 31st, 2007. So that's just a super fast overview on how the Lord led us and directed us. You know, God's calling to us, it wasn't like there was this lightning bolt, go here, or do this. But as we were faithful just in the steps that we knew God was leading us in, like I didn't know, after Bible college, I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I prayed, and the Lord opened up that opportunity to go to Alaska for that month. And then after that, I really wasn't sure, and then just took another opportunity the Lord opened up, and went then to Inuvik, and then Ohio. And each time, it wasn't some dramatic circumstance, or it wasn't some huge thing that was like, here's what I want you to do, but I did my best to stay faithful and just follow the path and the steps, though they felt like baby steps, but follow the steps that God had me, and God eventually showed us where He wanted us to go. Sometimes it seemed, some of those were sort of monotonous or not important, but each step, as we were obedient, God helped us and led us, and so we're very, very grateful for how He has led us and the time that we've been able to spend there. And so, as I said, we've just rolled over 17 years there now, and don't have anything huge or any large ministry, but we just tried to stay faithful and in a place that really is dark spiritually, and just be the light and be the light. So we, once again, appreciate you folks, and just thank you for your prayer and support. We are very grateful to support you too. We're grateful for your support and to represent you up there. And if you want to come and visit, you're welcome to visit too, right? You don't have to just stay down here. You can visit. We had a young man from Ottawa came and visited us this past summer. Spent 2.5 months with us, and so that was a nice thing. So anyway, lots of opportunities. I challenge you. Job opportunities in the north there's a lot. If you have some trade or skill. Not trying to take people from your church, Pastor, but if you have a trade or skill, you can probably find a job, and you would be such a blessing to our family, to have another a faithful family to be encouraged and to encourage and to help. And so, opportunities are plentiful for families or couples or individuals that are able to maybe get a job or something like that, and lots of needs, little towns, little places that need a gospel witness in our country, in northern Canada. And so if you would pray about that and pray for us, we would be very grateful for that. So I guess we'll do question time if we want to do that now.
Say something real fast.
Oh, okay.
He said that jokingly, not wanting to take somebody from our church, but with all sincerity, if the Lord would lead you up there, please go. I mean, that would be such a help. We take for granted getting to spend time with people throughout the week, and
That's right.
The fellowship that we can have, and the Joneses, they don't get that. And so just to have a faithful family there that they can spend life with would be extremely helpful. So if the Lord would put that on your heart and mind, man, do that.
Yeah,
all right?
for sure.
Who wants to ask first question? Ready, set, go. Somebody's got to break the ice. Go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, what was the coldest temperature? Well, before wind chill, the coldest we've experienced was minus 46. So wind chill was about minus 66 or so. Yeah. So I know, and I'm not exaggerating. I know I'm trying to not. That was the temperature. Now we don't get that every winter. Each winter we'll get minus 40, minus 50 wind chills often, but not a long extended period of time. But minus 25 to minus 35. That's average January, February temperatures. So yeah. That's Celsius. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I
when
think
you
at
hit
-40,
minus 40,
yeah.
when you hit minus 40, it crosses there, so the numbers in Fahrenheit actually go lower. So I tell my family in the States, yeah, it was minus 70 degrees out there yesterday, when it's only minus 48 or 46 in Celsius. But anyway, yeah, it's cold. We get lots of wind.
It's like the temperature up there is a dual citizen as well.
That's right. Yeah. So. Yes. Yes, we do. There is a small hospital there, and a few. Okay. Yes. The nurses do live there on a full-time basis. The doctors are on a rotation, and there's not very many of them. But there are. We do have a medical facility, and they can do emergency things. Nothing, no like surgeries or anything like that. But they can set a broken arm or stitch a finger or something like that. But so we have that medical. Oftentimes, if there's a very serious emergency, they'll have a medevac plane, which is a small little plane that has a hospital room basically in the plane, and then they'll fly down to Winnipeg. So that's our main city where we go for medical if needed. So yeah.
If you're asking a question, we do have microphones for you so that people can hear you. Go ahead.
Could you tell us the cost of living up there, and how do they get their groceries up there?
Okay, yeah, I don't have an exact figure, I guess, for cost of living, but groceries are all either mostly flown in, like the fresh items, because there are no roads to get there, so all the fresh items, so our milk and our vegetables, fruit and things are all flown in on a weekly basis. 4 liters of milk, maybe around $9 or so for 4 liters. Bag of oranges is $16 sometimes. If it does fluctuate. Cost is quite high. Our heat, the heating, if we're thinking about cost of living, we use heating oil for heat, so that in the winter months that is very expensive, very costly. But food and all that would be flown in, except during the summertime, because everything will melt, all the snow will melt, all the ice will melt, and so they bring in these big ships, either from Churchill, Manitoba, or actually all the way from Montreal. They'll bring in fully loaded ships with cargo and vehicles and lumber and dry goods, and so that reduces cost just a little bit. But it's quite expensive to live. The power bill is high each winter, especially, and yeah, it's a costly place. Yeah.
Go up?
Yes, we have probably 4 hotels actually. 4 hotels. Our community has developed into a mining industry or a mining community. So there are 2 gold mines nearby. One of them is about 30 kilometers away. So there's often people flying in and for work and for meetings and different things. It is a hub as well, a government and a medical hub. So people will fly in for medical things or just to transfer down to Winnipeg. They come to Rankin Inlet. So yeah, there's hotels and yeah up there. Yeah. 2 restaurants, not too many restaurants, but only 2. Is there another one over here?
This question is going to take me back to 4th grade geography when I studied Netsuk and Klea. I noticed there were 4 igloos in one of your pictures.
Okay. Yeah.
Are igloos still used as perhaps hunting? Is mostly hunting, is not for living.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, those igloos would have just been for. They would just build them if they're out hunting, if they're in an emergency. Those were built it was a cultural day, I think, so they had some people come and build several igloos just to demonstrate and teach the youth about the igloos. I did later on that week I did go sleep in one of those igloos. I wanted to do it, so I went and slept overnight. It was a very poorly made igloo. There's lots of cracks and holes, snow blowing on my face, and but it was good. It was a fun experience. I did sleep overnight in an igloo. So, but yeah, that would just be for emergencies out on a hunting trip. Everybody lives in modern wood-built houses with heat, and we have high-speed. We have Starlink internet now. Elon Musk, and there's cable TV and satellite, and there's fairly modern as much as they can get for the north. So yeah.
The darker side of the internet that's now at your doorstep. Does that make ministry even more difficult?
Well, possibly, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of people, like we have the memory of, we moved to Rankin Inlet even before cell phones were up there. So now, I mean, you see people glued to phones now, and the internet, lots of online gambling, there's some pros and some cons. Like, we're able to buy things online. We don't get free Amazon Prime or anything like that. I don't know what they're waiting for, but anyway, but we can order online, so we do order things online, but there are some, definitely people that would be addicted to gaming and things like that on internet-based things, yeah. So.
Back to Maya.
Yes, in the back there.
How big and how many people can you fit in your church?
Okay, so how big is the town or the church?
The church.
The church? Okay, so our church would probably be about one section of your, right here. That would be about the size of our whole church meeting space. So what we have a special thing. I don't know if you noticed it in the video, but we bought a big old building. We fixed it up, and we have a 3-bedroom apartment, I guess, upstairs for the family, and downstairs part of that is for our church meeting space. So I have an office down there, and we have the church meeting room, which would be about like that. So I don't know. I mean, that maybe not quite that. We couldn't fit that many chairs in there, but we've had about 45 probably at the top, maybe 50 in the past. So yeah, that's good question. Good question there. Yeah.
Like how much do they pay? Oh, what are the minimum wage?
Wages,
and
okay. Yeah.
Upwards. What is the wages down there?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the minimum wage is a bit higher, I think, than other places in Canada. I'm not sure what it is. Might be $16.50 or something. Not even sure what the national minimum wage is, but something like that. Is it $16.50? So I think they get at least $16.50. I know that. But their other jobs pay pretty well. As far as, in order just to keep the people working, they have a hard time getting people to come to work and to keep coming to work, and so they will pay them a bit higher. I'm trying to think here. So my wife Becky, next door to our building, there's a women's shelter. And so Becky works at the women's shelter. It's a shelter for women in abused and domestic violence situations. So she has a part-time job there. And I think she's making close to $30 an hour, something like that, or maybe a little over, just being a worker, just basically cooking and doing some cleaning over there at times. And so other jobs like working at the grocery store, they would be lower minimum wage type jobs, but then other more skilled workers would be paid a bit higher for sure. So yeah, we do actually have not a full Tim Hortons, but we have a Tim Hortons there. It's in the grocery store, and they do basically it's a self-serve. You go get your coffee cup and you put your sugar and cream, and then you go up and pay, and you can buy a donut. We don't quite have the full menu that is offered in most Tim Hortons, but that is one advantage. I guess we have Tim Hortons. Yes. Okay, so I was going about 2 times a week. I go in about 2 times a week, and that would be for about just about 2.5 to about 2 hours. It fluctuated, but I have had great freedom. They just gave me a radio, and all the doors are electronic, so I just give the door number, and they just open the door, and I could go anywhere and pretty much talk to anybody. It's a fairly small facility, so they would have probably under 25 men. That would be the maximum. They're usually probably around 18 or so. So yeah, had opportunities, great opportunities there. The administration and I had a good relationship, so we were able to. They're happy to have me come in, and once again, it's just because they've had a hard time getting people to do programs and do teaching in there. And so I like, hey, I'll do it, you know. They were paying me too, actually, which was a blessing. So I volunteered. I was like, you don't have to pay me, but no, we got to pay you. So I'm like, okay. So I was blessed. I use the RU recovery program. Similar, I have to retrofit it or adjust it a little bit for the lower literacy rate up there. So a lot of the men don't read very well, and so I've had to adjust it. But that was the basic core program I've used. Yeah. Oh, okay. Biggest challenge in ministry. I would say probably two of the bigger challenges. One of them your pastor mentioned was a lack of fellowship, like with other solid believers. Like we have some new believers that have been saved and attending faithfully, some that had been saved previously, and but they're growing, and so each interaction with them is often a discipling time, right? So we're always trying to encourage them and challenge them and speak to them, and so the actual fellowship that we miss, you know, that you would enjoy with solid, grounded believers, we don't get very often. And so that's definitely one of them. And I forget, I was going to say there was two. I'm trying to remember what the second one was. You know, probably the isolation, the lack of, we don't travel very much. And so like when we finished our furlough in January this year, we hadn't gone south until just last week. So, that was 9 months of being there. And that's fine. We're used to it. We're familiar with the area. But the high prices and the challenging ministry aspects, lots of substance abuse. We get people, the cultural, I guess I'll rewind here. The cultural thing is just to leave your door unlocked. And so we want to be open to the people. So we get people walking into our house. Not at night, we do lock it at night, but during the day, we get people walking in, just hello, hello. And so, unfortunately, we've had, in past months, had some intoxicated people who just come walking in and trying to get away from their husband who was beating them. And so, things like that, very tough to deal with, almost sort of like we're almost like social workers at times in some of these things that we're trying to deal with. And so that's a challenge because it's just us. We don't have other, we can't direct them to other Christians to assist. And so that, makes for a challenging time. But, God's been good. We've been able to, try to keep on going and keep trusting Him. And so, yeah, thanks for the question there, yeah.
In your video, I seen that there were several vehicles in there. At some point, I think that'd be very hard to get there logistically. At some point, was there like some ice roads in it, and a point during the year for them to get things in that way?
Okay, so no ice roads at all. Every vehicle is brought in on a ship, would be a ship. Or else, if it's a really small vehicle, they can bring like a cargo plane. Like we'll actually get big, like 767 cargo planes land there. So it's not just little bush planes. The main flight is on a 737 jet that comes up. Half the plane is cargo, and the other half, there's about room for maybe 65 passengers in the back of the plane. So they're combination flights where part of the plane would be cargo. That's where our vegetables and milk and fresh things would come in on, and mail, all the mail would come in there too. And then the back of the plane is passengers. But as far as the vehicles and the wood and lumber, that's all brought in on a ship. So, and it's expensive. Like if you buy a vehicle, it's about $6,000 just to ship it up there. So it's costly. We were blessed. We were able to get we have a Suburban, 2012 Chevy Suburban, and obviously used, got it for a good deal, and then we're able to ship it up. We had one other vehicle before that, but we sold it. But we use our Suburban for sort of like a church bus. We pick people up. It's our church Suburban, I guess. Bring people to church. Yeah.
What is your education like?
What's the education like? Okay, so yeah, there are schools, the public school system from kindergarten all the way through grade 12 there. And there's also a college there, a small local college. They call it Arctic College. And so there's some different programs and things that people can take, like secretarial and some, there's a technical or not a technical, I'm drawing a blank here. Where do you go to learn about carpentry and plumbing and what would you call that? Trade school, yeah. So there's a trade school as well connected with that. So there's individuals learning different trades and skills as well. So yeah, it's pretty organized. They have an issue with attendance rates, getting the kids to come. Probably, it's hard to say. School has started now about 2.5 weeks ago. As it gets near the end of the year, there'll probably be only like 60% attendance rate, something like that, really low, which is unfortunate. But yeah, they're able, there's education there. We do, my wife does homeschool, and the older kids take 1 or 2 classes at the public school as well. They're able to do that as well, so yeah. Okay, what is it like to get teachers? Yeah, they struggle to get the teachers. There are some local people that would teach, but most of them would be people from what we call Southern Canada, the South here. Yes, they are qualified teachers. Yeah, they're trained and qualified, and it's a very organized system. It's very, set up well, but they struggle to get teachers to come. A lot of times due to disciplinary issues and attitude issues with the kids and attendance issues, and being a small town, small community, it's not like the teachers can drive off after the school day and go home, but the kid might know where they live and come and harass them at their house or something like that possibly. So issues with that as well. Yeah. Much violence? Well, there's a group of lots of I guess we could say domestic violence situations fueled by alcohol, a lot of drinking, and goes on there. So there's a lot of would be a certain segment of the population that involved in crime like that. So yeah, it's pretty sad stuff. Yeah. What's the population? Just around 3,000 people. 3,000 people. So not very big. But it's the second biggest town in the territory. So yeah. What's my hunting situation like? Oh, good question. Yeah, so we can, caribou is our main meat source. I hunt, and I can take 5 caribou a year. And so we do share some of that meat, but then we process it all ourselves and grind it and cut it, and from the field to the table, we do it all. And also, for a couple years, I've been able to get a muskox as well, which I can only get 1 of those, but those are quite a bit more meat on a muskox. So. And fish too, we do eat a lot of fish like lake trout, Arctic char, Arctic grayling, and cod. The Hudson Bay, that's like the town is right on Hudson Bay, so there's Arctic cod in the bay, the saltwater, and so we can fish for those some too. So, yep, helps keep the cost down. You can provide your own food.
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, what is kind of like the median age? Are there a lot of young families, old families?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah, so I would say tending more toward younger families. Yeah, there's some older folks. Would call them elders, but they don't live very long. Like probably the age of how old they live is not all that, probably a bit lower than the rest of Canada. And so then there's lots of young little kids and babies and mothers, a lot of unwed mothers, mostly I would say unwed mothers. And so there's the population I would say is a bit younger of a population. Yeah. Sure.
Do you find a lot of the younger generation is moving out of the community, or do they actually stay?
Well, that's another good question. Yeah, I think most of them probably stay. Maybe 70% stay, 30% would go. The Nunavut education, they will pay for college. They will pay for them to go to colleges and help reduce costs and give them stipends each month as well. So there's motivation, and they're trying to encourage education, and but a lot do end up just staying, or maybe go work for go to work for the mine, maybe, because the mine does offer high wages and good skill training and perks, lots of perks with the mine. But yeah, so yeah. I'm just going to grab my water really quick. What's that again?
How many kids are in your church?
How many kids are in our church? I'm just going to grab my water really quick here, if there's any left. Let's see here. So I have 4 of my kids. Well, there's only 3 now. And then we have probably a total of about 8 or so kids. We do have our Sunday schools we have a Sunday school at 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoons, and so sometimes lately we've had some smaller groups, but we've had upwards of 30 kids at times at the little kids Sunday school, so that's been very challenging, and we're definitely going to miss Haley because she's a big help for that too, so one of our workers there. But yeah, we've got a good small, not a huge group, 8 or so kids, maybe 6 to 8, something, yep. Okay, so the Inuktitut language, the Inuit language is called Inuktitut, and it is still spoken, probably about 60% of the people still speak it fluently. We have made efforts to learn it, but there's no language school, regular language school. I've taken some courses, and we have some books and things like that, but it's challenging. It's very, very difficult. So all of our ministry is in English. We do or have learned a little bit. We can pick up a few phrases. We do sing. Some of our singing time at our services are in the language. It's just easy. You can sort of read the letters, and if you know the tune, if you're singing Amazing Grace, you know the tune, and so you can just sort of read the letters. I don't know 100% all that the words mean exactly. I'm hoping it's been translated correctly, but the people love to sing in their language, so we have made an effort to lead the singing and the worship time in the Inuktitut as well as some English songs. So yeah. Oh yes. They only have in our dialect up there. There's only 3 vowels in the dialect, and they have completely different characters. They have little symbols and lines and dots and different things, and so it's if you've seen any of the Cree language, like the Cree language, the Cree Indian language has similar characters to the Inuktitut language. So that's just, in fact, the designers of it would have been the Anglican or the Roman Catholic missionaries that wrote down the language first, and they took some of that from the Cree, some of the lettering. So, but they do have the syllabic language that they call it, which is the lines and the characters, but they also have it in English letters as well, and so they're moving more toward the English letters in an attempt to save the language and try to keep at least the language alive as a written language, not just spoken. So, yep.
In your presentation, you mentioned the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church. Are you now the only church there, or do they also have a footprint?
They're there as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they're there as well.
So it's
Yep.
3 churches?
There'll be 4. There'll be
Okay,
4.
who's
So
the fourth?
there's like a non-denominational, charismatic type church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do we have sports? Yeah, there's a lot. Rankin Inlet is hockey town. People love hockey. We have a brand new arena for hockey. Now, I don't play hockey, unfortunately. I played basketball growing up. I picked the wrong sport, but anyway. But yeah, there's soccer. In the summer, they take the ice out and put turf down, and so they play futsal and soccer. We have a baseball diamond, so there's baseball and softball. And maybe you saw on the video, but our town is famous for having an NHL player, Jordan Tutu. He's been retired for a lot of years now, but Jordan Tutu, and he was the first Inuit player. His parents still live in town. I know them, and but hockey is there's a little league, or there's hockey tournaments and all kinds of stuff. So, yep.
I have a question.
Okay.
How much does it cost for you to fly from Rankin Inlet to Winnipeg?
Okay, anywhere between $1,400 and $1,600.
One way?
That would be
That's-
return.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that would be both ways.
Crazy.
Yep, yep.
Crazy.
So,
Okay. Tanya, I saw your hand.
sorry, what was that?
You talked about physical darkness, like
Physical darkness.
Yeah.
Mhm,
How long does
mhm.
that usually last up there?
Okay, so yeah, like the darkest day would be in December, and we have about 20 hours where the sun is below the horizon, about 20 hours. So the sun will, because we are below the Arctic Circle, technically, so we call it Arctic because the climate is Arctic, very Arctic, but we will get a little bit of sun. It'll sort of pop up and then go down like that at about 3 o'clock, something like that, maybe around 10, see a little light, and then comes up, and then pops back down. So then it's the opposite in the summer, of course. So summer, very bright, and we have to put multiple shades and light blocking things on our windows, and so we'll get 20 hours of sunlight on June 21st. So that's it's easy to just stay up. You're like oh, it's like 12:30 already. Wow, it just seems like because you're just more light and more energy and all that. So yeah. Good questions. Yes. Do we have any run-ins with polar bears? No, I have not. It's sort of strange to say, but I've never actually seen a polar bear in the wild up there. So I'm grateful for that, I guess. I would have liked to. Would like to at least see one, but I'll tell you a story. Just let's see, probably about 2 weeks ago, I was out fishing with my son and another guy, just on the shore fishing. And we were not too far from the gold mine, and there was a helicopter that came, and it was sort of flying low and did a low circle around us, like a pat, I could see they were looking at us and looking around us, and I thought, I wonder what's going on here. Is this the wildlife officer trying to check my license, my fishing license or something? I didn't know what. And so didn't really think anything of it, but then the next day I was talking with a guy, and he said he had talked to another guy who was at a cabin not too far from where we were that day. He had been staying at a cabin that night, and he was woken up by the cabin being shaken by a polar bear. And it was like shaking his cabin. And so he shot the polar bear through the wall, bam, and injured it, and it ran off bleeding. It was night. He couldn't see where it was, but it ran off injured because the bear was trying to get in and attack him, so he was defending himself, like perfectly legal, and he was defending himself, and so the bear took off running and was injured, and he searched the next day looking for the polar bear, never found it. And so he went and told the gold mine, and they sent the helicopter up. So the helicopter was looking out for us, actually, looking around to make sure there wasn't a wounded polar bear in the area that we, would have been dangerous, it could have been very dangerous. I did have a gun with me. I do try to take a rifle each time I go out for safety, but thankfully we didn't see that bear, that wounded bear. But anyway, they are around. In fact, it seems like in the last few years there's been more bears than ever before, so, yep.